Most people don't realize this, but the greatest threat to your life isn't failure, bad luck, or other people. It's the weak version of yourself that you protect every single day. The version that chooses comfort over discipline, the version that says tomorrow instead of acting now, the version that knows exactly what must be done, yet keeps waiting for motivation that never comes. You feel it in quiet moments, that inner tension, that persistent sense that you're capable of more, but somehow stuck. Stoic philosophy was never designed to make people feel comfortable. Its purpose was always to make them stronger. The Stoics understood something most modern advice avoids. You don't rise by healing weakness, you rise by outgrowing it. This video is not about self-love, excuses, or endlessly understanding your flaws. It's about ending the internal sabotage that keeps you small. Today, we're not here to comfort the weak version of you. We're here to confront it, starve it, and replace it with something disciplined, grounded, and unbreakable. If you're ready to stop negotiating with weakness, stay with me. 1. Why the weak version exists. The weak version of you did not appear overnight. It was trained slowly, quietly, through repetition. Contrary to what most people believe, weakness is not a personality defect or a lack of talent. It's a behavioral pattern that forms when comfort becomes the default response to life. Every time you avoid discomfort, delay a hard decision, or seek relief instead of responsibility, you reinforce a version of yourself that learns one lesson: pressure can be escaped. Modern life accelerates this process. Convenience is instant, distraction is endless, validation is cheap. You no longer need discipline just to survive, so the mind stops developing it. Instead, it learns to numb, scroll, consume, and postpone. Over time, this becomes your operating system. The weak version exists because it is rewarded with short-term relief, pleasure without effort, and the illusion of safety. But those rewards come with a hidden cost. Each time you choose ease over effort, you surrender a small amount of self-command. Not all at once, just enough that you don't notice until one day you do. Stoic thinkers warned about this long before screens and algorithms existed. Marcus Aurelius observed that the soul is shaped by what it repeatedly submits to. If you submit to impulse, distraction, and avoidance, your character bends in that direction. Not because you're broken, but because you are training it that way. The weak version also survives because it sounds reasonable. It doesn't shout, it negotiates. Rest first. You deserve this. Now isn't the right time. Tomorrow will be better. These thoughts don't feel dangerous, they feel humane, but they quietly train you to place feelings above principles. And once feelings take control, discipline becomes optional, action becomes conditional, identity becomes fragile. There is another reason this version persists. Most people try to fix it instead of understanding how it was built. They analyze their weakness, explain it, justify it, and even defend it. In doing so, they give it legitimacy. The weak version doesn't need your sympathy, it feeds on your tolerance. Stoicism takes a colder, clearer stance. It doesn't ask why weakness feels the way it does. It asks whether your actions align with who you've decided to be. The weak version exists because until now it has been allowed to exist. It has been fed by repetition, protected by excuses, and normalized by a culture that confuses comfort with wisdom. Once you see this clearly, something changes. Weakness stops feeling mysterious and becomes mechanical, and anything mechanical can be dismantled deliberately, patiently, and without emotion. That is where real change begins. 2. Stop trying to fix your weak self. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing the weak version of themselves needs to be repaired. They think it needs more understanding, more compassion, more patience, so they analyze it, talk about it, explain it, and negotiate with it. That approach feels mature, it feels kind, and it fails every single time. Weakness does not disappear when it is understood. It disappears when it is replaced. Every time you try to fix the weak version, you keep it alive. You give weakness your attention. You give it a voice. You allow it to justify itself. And justification is the oxygen weakness breathes. Modern self-help quietly encourages this cycle. It teaches you to sit with your flaws, name them, and make peace with them. But Stoic philosophy takes a different route. It doesn't ask you to make peace with weakness. It asks you to decide who you are going to be and act accordingly. Epictetus made this distinction clear. He taught that progress begins when you stop explaining yourself and start embodying your principles. Not tomorrow, not after you feel ready, now. The weak version of you survives on delays and discussions. It says things like, "I just need to understand myself better," or "Once I heal, I'll take action." But action does not come after clarity. Clarity comes after action. Stoicism understands something uncomfortable. Identity is built from behavior, not intention. You don't become strong by fixing weakness. You become strong by repeatedly acting in ways that weakness cannot survive. This is why discipline feels threatening to the weak version. Discipline doesn't argue. It doesn't comfort. It doesn't ask how you feel. It demands consistency, and consistency exposes weakness without drama. Trying to fix your weak self traps you in endless self-observation. Replacing it forces you into self-command. There is also a hidden arrogance in trying to fix weakness. It assumes thinking is enough, that insight alone will save you. But the Stoics were suspicious of insight without execution. To them, wisdom without action was decoration. The moment you stop fixing and start replacing, everything shifts. You stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start asking, "What does a stronger version of me do next?" That question has teeth. It demands movement. Replacement is ruthless but clean. You don't argue with laziness, you outwork it. You don't soothe fear, you act despite it. You don't explain inconsistency, you eliminate it. This isn't about hating yourself. It's about refusing to protect the part of you that is holding your life hostage. Weakness doesn't need care. It needs withdrawal. And once you stop feeding it with attention, explanations, and second chances, it fades quietly, predictably, permanently. 3. Discipline is the execution error. If weakness is a habit, discipline is the force that ends it. Not motivation, not inspiration, not insight. Discipline. Most people misunderstand discipline because they tie it to mood. They believe discipline appears when they feel strong, confident, or energized. That belief alone keeps the weak version alive, because the weak version is emotional. It waits. It reacts. It needs conditions to be perfect. Discipline does not wait for conditions. It moves first. From a Stoic perspective, discipline is not a personality trait. It is a daily decision to act according to principle rather than impulse. You do the work because it must be done, not because you feel ready. And every time you do that, something important happens inside you. The weak version loses authority. The weak self rules through excuses. Discipline rules through repetition. When you wake up and do what you said you would do, even while your mind resists, you're not just completing a task. You are rewriting hierarchy. You are teaching yourself who is in charge. Seneca warned that people don't fail because life is hard, but because they avoid training for hardship. Without discipline, the smallest inconvenience becomes a reason to quit. With discipline, discomfort becomes familiar, and familiarity removes fear. This is why discipline feels violent to the weak version. It doesn't argue with doubt. It ignores it. And being ignored is fatal to weakness. Every disciplined action is an execution. You don't kill weakness dramatically, you kill it quietly through consistency. Weakness cannot survive routine. It cannot survive early mornings done without complaint. It cannot survive doing the hard thing first. It cannot survive standards that don't bend to emotion. That coldness is discipline's power. Stoicism never promised comfort. It promised command, the ability to command yourself regardless of circumstance. That command is built the same way muscles are built, under resistance. When you repeatedly act without asking permission from your feelings, you become someone else, steadier, harder to shake, someone whose identity is no longer negotiable. Discipline also simplifies life. It removes debate. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like it?" the question becomes, "Is this aligned with who I've chosen to be?" That shift is lethal to weakness, because weakness thrives in ambiguity. The truth is uncomfortable but liberating. You don't need to feel strong to become strong. You need to act strong long enough for the weak version to collapse from neglect. Discipline is not punishment, it is replacement. And the more consistently you apply it, the faster the old version fades. Not with drama, not with guilt, but with certainty. Because discipline does not negotiate, it finishes the job. 4. Starve the weak self. The weak version of you does not survive on strength. It survives on stimulation, distraction, comfort, and pleasure without effort. Emotional noise. These are not harmless habits. They are the fuel that keeps weakness alive. Most people try to fight weakness directly. They argue with it, shame it, promise to do better. But weakness doesn't respond to confrontation. It responds to availability. Stoicism approaches this differently. Instead of attacking weakness head-on, it removes what feeds it. The weak self is addicted to relief. Not joy, not fulfillment, relief. Scrolling to escape boredom. Eating to avoid discomfort. Consuming noise to silence thought. Each time you reach for relief, you teach the mind that discomfort is dangerous. And once discomfort becomes the enemy, strength never gets the chance to form. Epictetus warned that people are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the judgments they attach to them. Discomfort feels unbearable only because you've trained yourself to run from it. Starving the weak self begins with refusing instant relief. This doesn't require extreme actions. It requires consistent removal of easy stimulation. Fewer inputs, less noise, fewer escapes. Silence, boredom, and effort are not punishments. They are training grounds. When stimulation drops, something interesting happens. The weak version panics. It feels restless, irritated, unsettled. That reaction is not a sign that something is wrong. It's proof that the supply has been cut. Weakness always protests when it's no longer fed. Stoic practice teaches voluntary discomfort for this reason, not to suffer, but to regain control. Cold showers, hunger, silence, solitude. These practices remove the crutches weakness relies on. They force you to sit with sensation instead of escaping it. And once you stop escaping, discomfort loses its power. The goal is not to eliminate pleasure forever. The goal is to stop being controlled by it. When pleasure becomes optional instead of automatic, strength begins to emerge. Starvation also applies to emotional habits, complaining, venting, replaying old stories. These behaviors keep the weak self emotionally fed. Stoicism encourages restraint, not repression. You acknowledge emotion, but you don't indulge it. Every time you choose restraint over reaction, you weaken the old identity. This process feels empty at first. That emptiness is dangerous for the weak version because it doesn't know how to exist without constant stimulation. But for the strong version, emptiness is space. Space to build, space to decide, space to act deliberately. What you repeatedly deny will eventually stop asking, and when the weak self runs out of fuel, it doesn't explode. It fades quietly, predictably, completely. Weakness was never powerful on its own. It was only well-fed. 5. Build the strong self in silence. The strong version of you is not built in public. It's built where no one is watching. Most people announce their goals before they earn them. They seek validation before discipline. They want to be seen becoming strong instead of doing the quiet work strength requires. That impulse belongs to the weak version. It needs recognition to survive. The strong self does not. Stoic philosophy places enormous value on internal progress over external display. Marcus Aurelius wrote his most powerful thoughts, not for an audience, but for himself. He understood that real development happens away from applause. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. When you work without being seen, there is no shortcut, no performance, no image to protect. You are left with one question: will you do what needs to be done when no one is expecting it? That question exposes character. The weak version collapses in silence because it depends on feedback. It needs reassurance, encouragement, reaction. Without those, it loses momentum. The strong version, by contrast, becomes clearer. Focus sharpens. Standards rise. This is why solitude is essential, not isolation from people, but separation from noise. Fewer conversations, less explanation, less broadcasting your intentions. The less you talk about who you're becoming, the more energy you have to actually become it. Building strength in silence also removes comparison. When you stop watching others, you stop measuring yourself against their pace. You measure yourself against your principles instead. That shift is crucial. Comparison feeds insecurity. Principles build identity. Stoicism teaches restraint not only in emotion, but in expression. You don't explain your discipline, you demonstrate it. You don't announce growth, you let it show in how you carry yourself. Silence also makes self-deception harder. Without an audience, there's no one to impress. You can't hide inconsistency behind words. Your habits speak instead. The strong self is forged through repetitive, boring, unglamorous actions done daily without praise. Early mornings, controlled speech, completed work, physical training, mental restraint. None of these feel heroic in the moment. That's why they work. Over time, something changes. You become harder to distract, less reactive, more grounded, not because you feel powerful, but because you've practiced control. Power that needs to be displayed is fragile. Power built quietly is stable. The more you train in silence, the less you crave recognition. And the less you crave recognition, the less control others have over you. This is the paradox Stoicism reveals. By removing the need to be seen, you become undeniable. The weak version fades in noise. The strong version is born in silence. 6. Emotional control is an identity shift. The weak version of you is not weak because it feels emotion. It is weak because emotion is in control. Anger decides your words. Fear decides your timing. Comfort decides your effort. In that state, you are not living deliberately. You are reacting, and reaction is where weakness feels powerful. Stoic philosophy draws a sharp line here. Emotion is natural. Obedience to emotion is optional. The moment you understand this, identity begins to change. Most people believe they are their feelings. If they feel tired, they are tired. If they feel angry, they speak. If they feel unmotivated, they stop. This belief hands authority to the weakest part of the self, the part that seeks relief. Stoicism takes that authority back. Epictetus taught that the first task of philosophy is learning what is within your control. Emotions arise without permission. Your response does not. That distinction is the exit from weakness. Emotional control is not suppression. It is separation. You notice the emotion, you name it, and then you decide. That pause, small as it seems, is lethal to the weak version because weakness depends on speed. It needs you to act immediately before reason enters the room. The strong version lives inside that pause. When anger appears and you do not obey it, something breaks, not inside you, but inside the old identity. The belief that emotion is law begins to lose authority. This shift does not happen once. It happens through repetition. Each time you feel discomfort and still act with discipline. Each time you feel fear and still move forward. Each time you feel offended and choose silence. You are not being calm. You are retraining authority. Over time, emotional storms pass without rearranging your behavior. That is not numbness. That is strength. You still feel, but you no longer serve. The weak version hates this. It wants expression, release, validation. It wants to be heard immediately. Emotional control denies it the stage. This is why emotional mastery feels unnatural at first. You are removing a privilege weakness has enjoyed for years, deciding your actions. Stoicism reframes emotions as information, not instructions. Information can be observed without being obeyed, and when emotion loses command, identity stabilizes. You stop asking, "How do I feel about this?" and start asking, "What does my standard require?" That question ends arguments inside your head. It simplifies life. It makes your behavior predictable to yourself, and that predictability is power. Eventually, people notice something about you. You don't react the way you used to. You don't get pulled into drama. You don't rush to explain yourself. That change isn't accidental. It's the visible result of an internal shift. The weak version lived at the mercy of emotion. The strong version commands itself regardless of emotion. And once that command is established, weakness has nowhere left to hide. 7. The daily death of the weak self. The weak version of you does not die in a single moment. It dies through repetition. This is where most people fail. They expect transformation to feel dramatic. They wait for a breakthrough, a surge of motivation, a defining moment. When it doesn't come, they assume nothing is changing. Stoicism teaches something far less exciting and far more effective. Change happens daily, quietly, relentlessly. The weak self survives by convincing you that today doesn't matter, that one compromise is harmless, that skipping once changes nothing. But identity is not built in extremes, it is built in patterns, and patterns are formed one day at a time. The Stoics practiced daily self-examination for this reason. Seneca described ending each day by reviewing his actions, not with guilt, but with precision. What was done well? What was avoided? What failed to meet the standard? This wasn't punishment, it was maintenance. The weak version hates maintenance. It thrives in chaos and forgetfulness. It wants you to move on quickly, to avoid reflection, to blur responsibility. Daily review removes that escape. Each morning presents the same decision. Will you act according to discipline, or will you negotiate with comfort? There is no neutral choice. One feeds strength, the other feeds weakness. The daily death of the weak self happens when you choose discipline, even when it feels small. Getting up when you said you would, completing what you started, holding your tongue when provoked, doing the uncomfortable thing first. These actions don't feel heroic, but they are decisive. Every day you do this, the weak version loses ground, not all at once, but consistently. This is also why Stoicism emphasizes routine. Routine removes emotion from decision-making. You don't ask how you feel about training, work, or restraint. You follow the structure you've chosen. Structure is a weapon against weakness because it leaves no room for debate. The weak self needs flexibility. The strong self thrives on order. There will be days when you fail. Stoicism does not demand perfection. It demands honesty. When you fall short, you don't dramatize it. You don't excuse it. You correct it, then return to the standard the next day. This refusal to quit is what kills weakness, not intensity, not motivation, consistency. Over time, something becomes clear. The urges that once felt overwhelming begin to feel familiar, and familiarity removes their power. The voice that used to negotiate grows quieter. Discipline becomes less forceful because it no longer has competition. Eventually, you realize something unsettling and freeing. The weak version of you isn't gone because you defeated it in battle. It's gone because it no longer fits your life. Your habits no longer support it. Your standards no longer allow it. Your days no longer feed it. That is the real death of weakness, not a dramatic ending, but a daily refusal to let it live. 8. What remains after the weak self is gone? When the weak version fades, many expect a rush of happiness, relief, celebration, some emotional reward. But that isn't what remains. What remains is clarity. Life doesn't become easier, it becomes simpler. Fewer internal arguments, fewer excuses, less noise. You stop negotiating with yourself because the terms have already been decided. The first thing you notice is steadiness. Your mood no longer dictates your behavior. You act whether you feel like it or not. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you reliable to yourself. Stoicism never promised constant happiness. It promised inner order, and inner order is far more valuable. When your actions align with your standards, peace follows as a byproduct, not a goal. Marcus Aurelius wrote that tranquility comes when you stop being pulled in different directions. After the weak self fades, that pulling stops, not because life becomes calm, but because you are no longer divided. Another change appears quietly: respect, not from others at first, but from yourself. You begin to trust your word. When you decide to do something, you do it. That self-trust compounds. It becomes confidence without arrogance. You also notice something unsettling. Many things that once controlled you no longer work. Distractions feel empty. Drama feels pointless. Validation feels unnecessary. This isn't loss, it's freedom. The weak version needed stimulation to feel alive. The strong version needs purpose. With weakness gone, purpose becomes easier to hold. You're no longer managing emotions, image, or comfort all day. That energy is redirected into effort, mastery, and restraint. You stop chasing meaning and start generating it through action. There is also solitude here. Strength separates you when you no longer complain, react, or seek approval. Some people drift away. Stoicism doesn't view this as tragedy. It views it as alignment. You are no longer compatible with everything, and that is growth. What remains is not perfection. You still fail. You still feel doubt, but those experiences no longer define you. They pass through without taking command. This is the final Stoic truth most people misunderstand. The reward for discipline is not pleasure. It is authority. Authority over your time, your reactions, your direction. You wake up knowing what must be done. You move without internal resistance. You rest without guilt. The weak version promised comfort and delivered dependence. The strong version demands effort and delivers freedom. When weakness is gone, you are not euphoric. You are grounded. And from that grounded place, life becomes something you can meet head-on. Not with optimism, not with fear, but with readiness. At the beginning of this video, we confronted an uncomfortable truth. The greatest threat to your life is not the world, but the weak version of yourself you keep alive. That version was never evil or broken. It was simply allowed to rule for too long. Stoic philosophy offers no dramatic rescue. It offers responsibility. It asks you to stop negotiating with comfort, stop waiting for feelings, and start acting from principle, not once, but daily, quietly, without applause. Ending the weak version is not about aggression, it's about withdrawal. You withdraw attention, excuses, and indulgence. In their place, you install discipline, restraint, and clarity. Over time, the old identity starves and a stronger one takes its place. This is not a one-time decision. It is a practice. Some days you will fall short. That does not invalidate the path. What matters is that you return to your standard without self-pity or drama. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Strength is built when you do what must be done, regardless of how you feel. Peace follows strength, not the other way around. Begin today. Choose one disciplined action and do it without debate. Let that be the first quiet death of the weak version of you. Thank you for spending this time with me. Stay with the practice, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, endure.